to call the meeting of the Bristol County Water Authority to order. It's Thursday, December 11th, and it's 5:02 p.m. And I'm Juan Mariscal, the chairman. First item on the agenda, it's actually item 2, is public input. I don't recognize anybody here from the general public, so we'll move on to approval of minutes. First one on the agenda for approval is the Finance Committee meeting minutes from October 22nd, 2025. Do I have a motion on those?
Motion to be approved.
Do I have a second?
Accepted. Second.
Any discussion of the minutes? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of
Aye.
approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. The next set of minutes to be approved is from the board meeting of October 23rd.
Move to approve.
Have a motion to approve.
I second it.
Second, any discussion of the minutes? Seeing, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. The last set of minutes is the Finance Committee of November 13th, 2025. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to be approved. Second.
Okay, any discussion? One comment by me is I'm really quite pleased and happy and amazed at all the great work the Finance Committee has done in a very short period of time in addressing a number of issues that we've discussed over the last year. And I think we're on track now to address them. One of the things I think the committee has to do is meet in the future, and perhaps the chair will consider meeting on a monthly basis before the board meeting so that we can stay on schedule and get all of the items addressed and completed. So, any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the Finance Committee meeting minutes from November 13th, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Unanimous approval. Next item on the agenda is the Executive Director's Report. Mr. Kutu.
Good evening, everybody. So a report for this meeting of December 11th. For the Pawtucket Pipeline Project, Beta's monthly progress report is attached, and it was also previously forwarded to board members via an email. Just a couple of points that I'd like to point out from that report. So we did receive the 90% roadway plans on November 21st, and those plans are currently under review by our staff, and they were also forwarded to East Providence at that time for their review. And shortly thereafter, those plans were used as the permit plans for applications that were submitted to the DOT, DEM, and the U.S. Army Corps. However, as noted in the report, we're still waiting on 90% plans for the I-195 crossing and the rail crossings. And then I'd just like to add with respect to easements, is that falls on our plate at this time, and we've commenced engagements with the private property owners for easements.
Can I I'd like to see Beta give us another schedule. The schedule that you just about can read without a microscope is from August. They should be able to give us something 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 17 that you can actually read and see where we are. See how much we've moved to the right with all of these things. The 195 crossing went from, was supposed to be 90% November, I believe. We went back to 60%. We need to, in my opinion, we need to get them again give us a schedule of events. What are they doing for each of those items to get us to the 90%? And when do we plan on having a total package ready to go out to bid?
Are you asking for the Beta to come before the board again to give a presentation? Or just to update
Just
the schedule so it's readable in 11 by 14 or 17?
The director should be able to go put a shoe with them and talk to them about it and say, okay, here's the schedule we have from August. Today's schedule looks like this, whether they superimpose on that one or what they do, but we've gone months to the right on each of those items. And we shouldn't be in that position. We should be looking at today, if it was, I think December, said everything's gonna be done. So in January, we should have a package that whoever's gonna put it together can say we can go out to bid. I don't feel that's ready to go. We don't have it.
No, it's obvious from what the report says it's not going to be ready to
But
go.
to have them come in and give us lip service again, I'm not enthused with that whole thing.
So you just want,
Give us the schedule, let us know when we're going to have a design package at the 90% level that can go out to bid.
that should be a simple thing to put on.
Well, it isn't, it isn't. So a couple things. So, you know, if you recall, the board approved the last amendment with some conditions, and we wrote that in the letter. One of the conditions being that all items of the project be completed to the 90% design stage into permitting by the end of this year.
Which is right now.
Okay, so they have followed through on a few of those items, but like you said, there's a few of those items that lack. I think if they don't meet that deadline, I mean, it's a couple of things. I definitely put pressure on them. We can bring it up at the January meeting, find out why those items are lagging, and when those items will be forthcoming. With respect to actually having plans and going out to bid, whether those plans are at 90% and it's a permitting, we can't go out to permitting until we get all our permit approvals. So
We can't get the approval.
we can't go out to bid until we get permit approvals.
But that's December, isn't it? That at least the permits have been submitted.
Correct.
Then we could follow with the DOH or the Rhode Island Highway Department or whoever, the Army Corps.
Right.
We could start tracking that.
Correct.
But right now, we have one thing that went in, that was the 21st of November.
Yep.
So it went to, I don't recall, that was,
They're into DOT, DEM, and Army Corps.
so who from BCWA follows that?
We do.
Okay, so we should be able to say now that the transportation department has it, we're into 1 month or 2 months, and this is our point of contact.
Yeah.
Can we get it? I just really think we should have some time that says, when can we get a package to go out to bid? When will we have all the approved permits, all of the easements, and so on and so forth to go out to bid? And I was gonna ask a financial question that falls out of my head. If I delay month for month with inflation and everything else going, and we start at 40 million, what's our month-to-month increase in the cost of this?
Right.
Is it, Dan, you got that up the top of your head.
I mean,
But I think that
each year that's passed from the beginning of this project has added costs, right?
I agree.
I mean, if I go back to original schedules for this project 2 years ago, I mean, their beta schedule said that we're in construction now.
Right.
I mean, that's been the issue with this project from the beginning.
But
You know?
at this point, we can only ask for an update of their schedule so we can see it all in one place, to see where everything is falling as we go up in time, to see what issues this is all raising. And asking for an update in the schedule and making it so it's readable, a readable size, isn't something that is difficult for Beta to do and should be able to produce it in a day. And I think that's the basic thing we can ask them to do. Staff, I'm sure on a daily not a daily basis, but on a weekly basis, is having exchanges with Beta on some of these issues. And they're the folks who are riding them to get this done as quickly as possible. So all we can do is say, put it down on paper when you think this is going to be done, update data. So you gave it to us once, we couldn't read it, frankly, and we want to be able to see it, and we want you to take us from where it is today to when it's going to be out on the streets. And some of that is guess, but they can accommodate that as any engineering firm does.
Are they part of this contract with Beta? Are they responsible to put the package together to go out to bid?
Yes.
Okay, so that should be a milestone on their chart. It says sometime, hopefully sometime in '26.
It is.
So,
But it's a guesstimate on their part as to
Well, I
when they get the approvals back.
any other thoughts, questions, comments regarding this project? Well, I would go on a limb, and you can stop me if I go too far. It's the consensus of the board that we get an update of the schedule in a readable, large-scale form, 11 by 17.
I don't, do we have to make a
It's
motion to do
basic.
that? or-
No, it's the consensus of the board that we want this. And
That's not a problem.
our director will convey that back to Beta, and Beta will respond accordingly, quickly. If somebody wants to make a motion,
When is our next meeting?
You're welcome
January
to do it.
22nd.
everything okay? Okay, let's move, I'll move on with your request.
Okay. Let's see. For the demo of the treatment plant and then the maintenance garage, we had the conceptual design plans and that cost estimates received on November 7th. We subsequently had a meeting with the Properties Committee on December 3rd, and we'll have some more discussion on the results of that meeting during this meeting at a later agenda item. And then with respect to the demolition of the former treatment plant, if you recall, the board voted back in the September meeting to wait on the pre-design plans and for the new maintenance garage before making a decision on those buildings. Well, with the new, with this proposed plan, it does show the need to remove the treatment plant building along with the current operations garage. The one building that could potentially stay is the smaller building right on the street.
Is that a question? The smaller buildings stay?
Well, it's not really included in the redevelopment.
We don't need that area.
You don't need the area. It's just a matter of we still want the building.
I don't mean to cut you off, but we have an agenda item on that for item 10, so we can get into it, don't we?
Yes.
Recommendation of proposed operations building.
Yeah.
So we can get into all the details at that time. And he can get through his full report.
All right, so then for the dam removal project, I did receive the final invoice just yesterday, so we can work on closeout documents with the contractor for that. And I also have a number of grant closeouts I start working on. As you can see, it was a slow news day. East Bay RI posted an article on planting of trees at the dam. Credit to Save the Bay and the number of volunteers that came out to assist us in that effort, along with our own staff. We started doing some follow-up private well testing We did some private well testing in advance of the removal of the dams. We offered that to all of the property owners that abutted the former reservoir. Those are private wells, so we tested mainly for salinity. There were no issues with any of the wells tested before the dams came down. So now the dams have been removed. We've again offered to do some post removal testing. We only offered the post removal to the 12 homes that participated in the program previously. And that program, this current program ends sometime next week. So of the 12, I think we've had interest about half to do testing. And then the shad line, that work continues. I have a meeting next week. We'll get an update as to where they stand on that project, as far as getting permit documents in. Lead service line replacement program. Updated chart is provided. Really no work has been being conducted at this time, and actually in the field. We used to receive on occasion some survey reports come in to remove some unknowns that go into the known list. But we did send out our annual mailer to all the folks that have an unknown service line or galvanized iron service line. So that's approximately 1,200 notifications were mailed out, and you can see that's the same letter, same documents that were previously sent out about a year ago. It's like 6 or 7 pages long. Tells all about the hazards of lead. So even though they may not have a lead, but we don't know that for sure. So if any property owner or homeowner continues to receive one of these, to get off this list is to either have us do an inspection to verify that they have a non-lead service, or if they can do the survey themselves. Once we have that information, then we will no longer send this notice out. There's another program starting on this. This is a very administrative heavy lift for water utility systems to make sure that we're in compliance with all the regulations. But the next order of business on this is, as you can tell from the chart that I have in here, there's a number of, actually a large number, about 1,900 of customers where we assumed that it's a non-lead service. And that's based on the age of installation or age of construction of the house after 1949. So by rule, we have to identify at least 20% of those to determine, to validate that list. And so we'll also be working again with 120 Water to send out notices again and to verify that those, maybe at least 20% of those, the 1,900 have non-lead. And if we can do that, then the Department of Health will say, okay, then your list is good.
It's just a one-time ask by them.
Yeah. Found out with tank hydraulic modeling, we finally received the final report just the other day. That report was sent off to DOH yesterday, and I will provide that to the board at our next meeting with a memo, just to kind of give some highlights as to the findings on that. But just quickly, that tank's been offline for over a year. The modeling and the evaluation that was done, confirms that the tank can remain offline. It's actually improved pressure and fire flow, throughout the town of Barrington, and also water quality for that matter. So, we have no plans of taking down the tank. The tank we still have antennas on the tank for SCADA and meter reading collection.
Question?
Yes.
If you put up, I understand the antennas have to be there. is the tank itself saleable?
Sale
Sell the tank?
for,
Well, we bought the thing down at Roger Williams for a tank for water, you know, it's a golf ball thing. Is the tank that's currently used for storage of water saleable for somebody to take it and use it to themselves?
to do what?
Whatever.
Oh, but then we'd have to put up a tower. Because we have antennas at the top of the tank.
Right, no, I understand that, but I mean, is the tank, you're gonna have to maintain the tank after a certain amount of time.
I guess at some point.
You know, if we put up an antenna.
So thank you, antenna.
Yeah,
Keep it warmer.
I don't know.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to that point.
Okay.
Water purchase graphs are provided month of October with both 4%, 4% less than prior 5-year average. For the year, water purchases are 1% greater than last year, but still 2% less than the prior 5-year average, but so basically flat. Attaches the capital improvement project summary budgets. We're in good shape there. And for personnel, we just want to welcome Zachary Carmelo as our newest water utility operator. He's been with us for a few weeks now, seems to be fitting in well.
Is he local?
Swansea? And,
He can't join the water fires.
and I just make a note that we've been working with the budget, meeting with the finance committee, and we'll be discussing the budget. That concludes my report.
Any comments, questions of Steve regarding his report? Okay. Not hearing any, I'll turn the mic. Mike, anything you want to report on?
At this point in the year, not too much else to add, but throughout the system, as we kind of took a quick dip into the cool weather, you will see the guys out working on leaks, responding to leaks. There's a couple we're actually monitoring now if they're small enough, we'll let them go while we can really hone in on them so that when we make that initial excavation, it's really pinpointed and it mitigates significant surface restoration in the end. So, but tomorrow we'll be out in the vicinity of State Street, State and Hope. We have a small one there, and the other one, you might see some water in Warren on Metacom. We're watching that one. We'll go after that next week. So, right now they're small. When they're small, they don't make a lot of noise, so it's hard to narrow in on. It takes a couple days to really pinpoint the location, and then we'll go in and make the repairs.
You mentioned Metacom in Warren. What is going on in Metacom in Warren right now?
A lot of gas work. A lot of gas, not us. A lot of gas.
Oh, gas? Okay.
From what I understand, a lot of that work will be going on throughout the winter.
For years.
So the state does have some resurfacing projects in that area, so the push is on to get all the infrastructure done, and they're doing their part now. So.
Do you have any impact of the gas line over relative to your leak?
No, we work very well with AGI.
No, I'm just saying who caused the leak, or that's why I'm asking.
Oh, what caused it? I don't know. It was not a utility strike. If it was a utility strike that caused it, they're legally obligated to report it and advise us. But this was not that. This is unfortunately just a working break that we had some doing. So, otherwise, some of our older facilities, this being one of them, and Mayor Road Pump Station being another, there's components in there that age out. So we do, we like when they're new, like Hope Street and Metacom pump stations. They get all new equipment controls, but the old ones, we take care of them just as much. So when they need things, when they need improvements, we do the due diligence to make sure we get them operating, so everything is operational and reliable. So this facility recently had some surge protection done. And at Naya Road, we had some movement controls done that integrate into fresh air handling for smoke and for cooling and combustion air for the generator. Otherwise, it's business as normal.
Okay, Colin, anything you want to bring up?
Given some updates on the capital improvement projects. So for the current one, we will return in the spring of next year for permanent patch and mill overlay work for where they worked this year, being Child Street and Gooding Ave. And then as far as Ducom's project, we are waiting for their last invoice, and we can start to look at release and retainage. As far as just the miscellaneous other projects going on, there was, for Bristol Lofts, we had, we instructed them to shut down for the winter on November 12th. We had been working with NJP pretty closely for the entire 2025 construction season, and at the end they didn't have everything they needed and we were getting into colder temperatures, so we decided it was best with because this project involves removing and replacing the water main in that area, and it would necessitate bypass, and there's been historical issues with having bypass on in the winter, even in that area in Bristol. So we informed them that they would have to come back in the springtime. As far as the Mount Hope High School renovation, we're still working with JR Vinagro on the product submittals. So yeah, still basically really no update on that. Unity Park at 500 Wood Street in Bristol, we installed the public side service on November 21st, and we're working with CB Utility as far as getting the rest of that, as far as still also product submittals, as far as the hot box and the service pipe and things like that. We've also been working with JML Excavation as far as customers who are interested in replacing their galvanized iron private service. And that would enact the 5-year no interest loan. If a customer has a galvanized iron service that they're interested in replacing, we've been meeting with them. JML, BCWA and JML meet them on site. And JML gets together a price, we look at it, make sure everything looks good, and then if the customer agrees, we replace the service and we do a 5-year no interest loan. And we're doing one tomorrow in Bristol. And then for 260 High Street, which is the old Wally School, we also had the renewed the public side fire protection and domestic services on November 26th. And that is it.
Oh, how was, I'm curious about the process of replacing the service to the old Wally School, right?
Yes.
And so how was that determined that that had to be done? Was it a call from the town saying they were doing some work and they discovered a problem? Or?
No, there's no problem other than the existing infrastructure was old. I believe. So the old Wally School, from what I was looking at our records, the domestic, I want to say, was installed in the 1950s, and then the fire protections in the 1960s, and I might be switching those up, but it was also inactive since the 90s. So with those two, we made the determination that they would need to renew the public side for both of the services.
They're in the process of renovating that building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Now on to the money.
All right. 8 months through the year. All right. If we go to page 4, we look at October versus October. Revenue for October was almost 16% higher than last October. Consumption driven and the rate increase. Expenses were a little bit lower, just under 4%. There was a decrease in the water purchase for the month versus last year. There was a decrease in operations, maintenance expense due to timing. It looked like there was some landscaping and tank maintenance done last October that wasn't done this October. And there was a decrease in operations other expenses due to some timing. We had some gas bill timing. There was 2 in 2024. There's only 1 so far in 2025. There was some small purchases, tool purchases last year. If we go through October, through the 8 months, on page 5, revenue is almost 6% higher. Again, that's due to the rate increase. And through October, there's a slight, just under 1% increase in consumption for the year. So between the rate increase and the slight increase in consumption, that explains the higher revenue. Expenses are a little bit higher, they're 3.77% higher. That's due to the 3 items that I noted on that were salary, wages, admin. That's up about almost 53,000. That looks like raises just given, and we had an open position last year for a couple of months. Professional fees are up about 116,000. Those are just some additional legal fees and engineering fees, along with the increase in the audit fee. And then operations maintenance expense was up almost 59,000. And the bulk of that was we had that reimbursement to the town of Barrington for some paving costs earlier in this year. We didn't have a similar item last year. That's the bulk of that. Versus budget, on page 6, we're doing well. I expect this to kind of come down a little bit as we go through the next 4 months. But revenue is over budget by about 15%. That's pretty much like I mentioned the last 12 months. Current usage just exceeding budgeted usage, and then we basically budget conservatively, so that's part of the reason. Expenses are also under budget, which is good, 7.23%. The 3 biggest ones under budget were employee benefits, computer expenses, and purchased water. The employee benefits are lower largely due to the actual health and dental costs coming in a little bit lower than what we actually budgeted. And we had an open position for part of the year, so obviously during that time you're not going to have health insurance.
Gosh, sorry.
Salaries operations was a little lower due to the open position during the year. Actually, we kind of had 2 open positions, but both of them were a couple of months. And purchase water was down due to lower purchases, as Steve had mentioned in his report. Pages 7 through 9 show the dollars billed and gallons delivered. The dollars billed increased 4.4%, and there was that slight increase in consumption that I mentioned, 0.92. Probably talking to Joe, consumption should probably flatten out for the rest of the year. I don't necessarily anticipate that going up. Consumption should be flat, maybe a little bit of an increase. Page 10, that trust fund report shows the debt service ratio up just a little bit since September. It's at 10.32. It's 10.25 in September. And then the pension summary report on page 11, there was an increase of the month of almost 57,000. And I went back and looked from the beginning of the year, of the fiscal year, and it's up almost 314,000 since the beginning of the fiscal year. And the balance as of October 31st was 4.134 million. That is October in a nutshell.
Going back to the first page of your report, you mentioned transition of all customers to quarterly billing. I was surprised by
We had
that.
that small, I've been mentioned that a few times this year. we had a handful of commercial, I think, accounts that were monthly, and Joe phased those out. That tweaks the timing a little bit. So yeah, we did that earlier this year. I mentioned it prior.
I didn't say you didn't, I just don't remember it. Do you think that'll have any impact on forecasts or estimation?
Not really, because it was such a small number of accounts.
Right,
It kind of affects the consumption right now because you're looking at monthly, quarterly now versus monthly last year. So as we go forward, but in terms of like forecasting out, it should, it'll fall more in line with everything else. And like I said, it's a small percentage. I can go back and look. It was a smaller percentage of our customers. So.
okay. Anybody have any other questions or comments, thoughts? No, I do want to ask about the computer expenses, and you pointed it out, that it's budgeted $144,000, you've only spent $104,000, so it says it's $39,000 under budget. But my question here is, I guess it's, maybe I don't understand the presentation. That is only for the expenses are only for the 8 months through the year thus far, whereas the budgeted amount that's there, is that for 8 months?
Yes. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so why is that down so much?
Well, I saw Randy's report. Randy's starting to cycle through. He's starting to replace some
Okay, so it's
computers, so it's kind of a timing thing.
timing thing, okay.
Yeah.
All right,
It's still probably coming under budget
yeah,
because he started late, but he's starting to replace some of the older desktops that people have.
okay. Sometimes when you have the money, you should spend it,
I'll tell Randy you said that.
because you don't know what tomorrow will bring. Any other questions, comments on finances? No? Okay. The next item on the agenda is the board member town council reports. I know Bill has something he wants to mention.
Mr. Chairman, I am writing to you as I will be resigning my director position of the BCWA on December 31st, 2025. It has been an honor to represent the town of Warren on the board of directors, which includes Barrington and Bristol as well. My first appointment was 11 months, starting February 13th, 2007. This was followed by 6 3-year terms. My current term expires on February 28th, 2028. Someone will be needed to fill my position in January. I don't know where that came from. I have tried my best to represent Warren in a professional way when dealing with any and every situation that came my way. I was very proud when elected to a committee chairmanship post several times as well, when I was elected vice chairman of the board for 9 years. I want to thank every town council member who has supported me over these years, every current director and all previous directors. I would also like to thank all of the employees of the Water Authority itself, and a very special thank you to my wife Nancy. I wish all of you a very Merry Christmas and a happy and healthy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. You've had an incredible career here at the Bristol County Water Authority, and you've done some outstanding work for the authority. And I think we're all blessed to have worked with an individual like yourself. So good luck to you in the future, and we're definitely going to miss you. So thank you.
Did the council have that for the last meeting?
I'm sorry?
Did the council have that for the last meeting?
No.
No. So they won't make an appointment for another month.
I think they'll be contacted tomorrow, maybe?
Yeah, we'll get this over to them, and Town councils work in strange and mysterious ways. So we'll see what happens with it, but I know it took a few months before we had a vacancy filled in Bristol, but, you know, they'll go through a process.
What are you gonna do now with all your time?
What did you say?
You still gonna work on the school buses?
Yeah, yeah. If one thing I could say, I worked basically employed here 18 years and 11 months. And that can be a long time. But when I came in, the first person I saw was John Janetta. So I don't know how many years you've
Are
been.
you trying to say I should go to office?
I think it all.
Okay.
Thank you again.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Bill, thank you very much.
Anybody else have anything to report
Joe, I
regarding
would have put your
town
name on
councils?
it, but I couldn't afford it.
I have a gift for you later on.
So moving on to the next item on the agenda is the high service area expansion for information and discussion.
Yeah, already write-offs.
Quarterly write-offs for information only. Maybe I forgot that because it has my pet peeve in there. And that always has to do with the residential tenants. But there is a handout here, and you'll notice the residential tenants, there are 41 accounts out of the 52 that, of the total accounts that this report pertains to. So 80% of the write-offs are going towards residential tenants. That's my pet peeve, and I stated it once again. So we need to have, it's for information only, and so it's presented here. Is there anything you want to bring up on this?
No, Joe said it's still pretty much within what you normally expect. It was a little higher because we had a commercial bankruptcy that flowed through, but other than that, he's happy with it. It's still within the range that he's used to seeing.
Yeah. And despite the number of accounts and the characterization that I made about the accounts, it's still an incredibly low collectible, and most organizations would be quite happy to have that level. So, anyway, for information only. Thank you for reminding me. Let's see, 7, 8. High service area expansion for information and discussion.
Okay, so the next 3 items I put on the agenda, and I thought it would be important for the board to know, to have kind of all the information at their hands before they vote on the budget, as you know, because the overall budget of BCWA really is driven by the capital improvement projects, capital improvement budget, and notably these 3 items that we'll be talking about next. So first, I'd like to talk about a little bit about the high service area expansion. I think the last time we had a discussion on the high service area was back in June, and if you recall, I showed. We presented this map that you all have here, and now that the Hope Street pump station is in operation, the authority is in a position to expand that the high service area. And the high service area being the areas of higher elevations in Bristol. And those customers having low pressure because of where they sit in relationship to the rest of the system. So we dove into this a little bit, and we had presented to the Finance Committee. There were two projects, 2 phases. At an expense of, one was $5 million and one was $4 million. The $5 million project was what we're considering, it's identified as the proposed high service area phase 2 west which is actually near the pump station and near the tank, right on Hope Street. So that project would require 2,700 feet of 12-inch main running down Hope Street. And, because it's on a state highway, we have high cost of installation, paving, rehab. That cost was $5 million, and the number of customers that would benefit would be 206. The next area, which is known as the proposed high service area phase 2 north, and that is on the Medicom, would require a little over 2,000 feet of 12-inch pipe. Again, Medicom being state roadway, $12 million for number of customers of 167. Now, when we were having a discussion about these two projects at the Finance Committee, I was asked at that time how many, customers this would benefit. And I had told the Finance Committee that'd be 130, so it's a little less than what it actually is. I didn't have the information, available to me at that time, and kind of dove into this a little more following that meeting. And the next area is to the south. Again, it's along Medicom Avenue. It's just south of the Bayview Avenue tank. This area would benefit 157 customers, and was not included as an infrastructure project because there may be an opportunity here to extend this high service area by kind of valving off the system. However, before we do something like that, there is some hydraulic modeling that we'd like to do, because basically we'll be creating a large dead end at that location. So we just want to make sure it's not going to impact pressure, water quality, kind of in that area there. But that's work that we can do kind of on an engineering basis without doing some expensive infrastructure work. So at the Finance Committee meeting, you can turn to the next page of my memo. What was presented to the Finance Committee on November 13th, you can see we had $2 million a year for water main rehab, and then there were those two projects at $5 million and $4 million for 2027 and 2028. And as we started talking a little bit about it, and given the number of customers, when I said 130, for each of these projects, the Finance Committee at that time decided to move those funds to water main rehab. So they basically took $9 million, divided that by 5, so that added 3.8 to the 2 million for each year. So what you have tonight for the capital budget is this second line. So there's no money in the high service expansion area projects, and that money's been shifted to the water main rehab line. Right, Steve?
Just to speak to that,
Yeah.
The reason why we moved the money in the first place was when we looked at the total number of customers and divided by the project cost, it was coming out to like $24,000 to $35,000 per customer. So we were thinking that maybe there's currently a policy in place with BCWA that says we'll give you $200 for a booster pump, and maybe we can look at adjusting that issue for these residents that are still affected by lower water quality, lower water pressure quality relative to the rest of the system, and maybe revisiting that policy about maybe being able to get them another incentive, because a $200 incentive for a new booster is a lot cheaper than a $24,000 fix to the entire line with no members of the public here complaining about their water pressure to begin with. So that's kind of how we arrived at that answer of moving it to more of the system, keeping the system updated rather than just benefiting a couple of customers relative to the 17,000 plus that we currently have.
I think if you go down and you knock on the door, you would hear a different story.
Yeah, but
No, because there's, if you look at those areas on the west side and then.
it's just hard to justify it with the cost benefit.
I don't understand. I'm just saying that those people have I've sat there for years now, replacing pump after pump. If you're gonna do something relative to, say, okay, I'm gonna give you a new pump, or I'm gonna do something along those lines, I would go down that path more than just say, I'm gonna give you another $200. You have a plumber walk into your house, it's a $500 bill just to come in and swap the pump out. Unfortunately, my pump is gone now, because that was the benefit of what happened with the pump station. But I understand the cost trade-off, you know, but your return on investment, but you have people that are paying the same amount for water, and I'm not sure what the hydrant reads down there in that area. If I were to, I know I'd be in trouble down the bottom as it was before.
Well, they're still getting water, it's just not the same pressure.
If you ever tried to use a hydrant down there, you'd be in a lot of trouble. That's from a perspective of life safety on that side. That would be the benefit to me, in my eyes, as you did to something like that.
They're repainting the fire hydrants. And can you explain the coating system, or somebody?
Well, that's been the Fire Protection Agency that we all live under, which is a Rhode Island law, says a fire hydrant has to be painted a certain color depending upon the volume of water it gets out of it. So if you drive through Bristol, I don't know if Warren or Barrington or whoever you do it, Warren paints theirs so they're little soldiers, but that's a contest, I think. But if you drive through Bristol and you see they got done with the blue caps, the domes, that means it's going to get over 1,500 gallons per minute out of there. They're going to go in the spring, I guess they're going to come back and do the rest of them. But there's a law that we have to abide by that says how much water you get out of each hydrant. And that's part of what Mike does, the annual thing. He reports how much each hydrant puts out, right?
No, that is based off our hydraulic model. That's
The
a
model
calculation.
you come out with, it says.
It's not so much how much comes out immediately, it's what is the potential that can come out.
Yeah, so the majority of those in the high pressure area are 1,500 gallons a minute or more.
So that's one argument for increasing the pressure in some of these areas, but what we're talking about is pressure at the hydrants. Do we do any pressure testing within the homes themselves?
If we get called for a low water quality pressure or water quality call, we will take a sample of the pressure to ensure that it corresponds to what we anticipate based on the hydraulic model. If it does correlate, it's a function of the home's elevation relative to our hydraulic rate, which is that's the pressure you get. If it deviates, then we do more troubleshooting. Is if they have a failure somewhere, they're losing pressure. But if there's a correlation to the model, then we tell them that that's what the pressure is.
How often do you get these calls?
They come up. Honestly, we get them a lot from people that move into the district. So. Barrington was a frequent flyer. People would move in. I don't know if they'd get more real estate transactions. But previous to the Fountain Avenue tank, we would get some new folks that came in saying, is something wrong? And we were like, no, that's the pressure in your area. It's been better since we removed Fountain Avenue tank and we increased the pressure.
There was early in the discussion talking about knocking on doors, but I'm wondering if we made the public aware that we would check water pressure in areas where people thought they had problems, if that would be you know, creating a problem where there might not be any, or if we would actually get some good information about how the system's functioning. And I appreciate the modeling, but
Yeah, so we have a very good handle on how the system's operating, because when we develop the model, we also do field checks. So we flow hydrants, so we're very, very confident that, and we do this, same thing with Fountain Avenue, we compare it to online sensors. So is the model giving us an output that actually corresponds to a field condition? So that has been done historically, and then when we change a hydraulic condition like we did in the area of Gooding, when we expanded it there, and when we improved it in Fountain Avenue, we also do more flow and pressure monitoring to ensure the data we're getting correlates. So this study reflects that. It reflects both computer-based and field checking.
so going back to the reason why we diverted funding, and one possible solution to addressing low pressure areas is looking at the policy on the funding or payment to individual homeowners who need to use a booster pump. And so that's probably what we need to do next. So we can write that on our to-do list.
Out of the, what is it, like 300 or 400 people in total out of the 3 areas? 130, 160?
There's 373.
500?
Yeah.
But the 500 things that are there, how many people would currently have a booster pump?
I don't know if we know that. Do we know that?
No, I don't know.
No, they don't. Does somebody need to get a permit if they put a booster pump in?
No.
No.
Not from us.
I know I didn't get one to get them put in.
But if it just as a question, if there's 500 people, how many of them have to use a booster
Right,
pump in order to be able to operate their house?
Right. Well, this is something we're going to have to research further, I think. Because we're admitting that there could be a need in these areas.
I could attest to the fact that I've spoken to people on each of those streets, you know, that I know.
Yeah.
One of them was a former water company employee, you know. What the frig are you doing with it? Well, nothing, you know, but that's okay.
But what the booster pumps don't address is the fire protection issue which you raised.
It's my opinion.
That's why we have pumpers.
But you can only
That's why we
get,
have engines, boosting
Okay.
pressure.
well, if you look, and we still have in Warren and Bristol on the lines, especially if you would use it in the Warren, Bristol site and in Medicon, we got 2 hydrants. You can suck out of Warren and push it into Bristol.
Steve, what's really entailed into bringing these up to height? New mains?
Mm-hmm.
But it's something that needs to be researched further, so that's on the to-do list.
Well, we have to approve the finance thing, right?
Well, that'd be when we talk about budget, yeah.
So,
There's a pump test today.
okay. Moving on to the next information and discussion item was...
Okay. So the next item being, so the board's going to fund water main rehab. How do we determine where we're going to rehab pipes, right? So I had Mike put together this really detailed memo and provided, some mapping associated with it, but in general, I mean, we have here at Bristol County Water, I need to give credit to the staff here, compiling all the data and using the GIS system to its ability highlight areas with respect to, pipe age, pipe material. And you can they kind of highlighted these areas, so you can see kind of throughout the district, there's a huge need out there, right? There's a lot of old pipe throughout, so there's no shortage of work. But in compiling this information, be it, the age of the pipe and valves and hydrants, and whether the pipe is cast iron or an older ductile iron main, and then they can kind of group these in and cluster them to kind of, and then from that, you can kind of develop, a project based on available funding. I know currently they're looking at, because we were just over there on Child Street, I know there's a strong need for Child Street and Medicon Avenue to do some painting and lining, so that's the plan for next year. But going forward, we use this data to develop annual projects based on available funding, and we can be as detailed or as fluid as we need to be, because we have control over the project design. We design these rehab projects in-house. And, so if we become aware of all of a sudden an area that has a greater need, such as Gooding Avenue this past year, when we realized that, well, we have a pipeline that, really wasn't that old. It was 1980s ductile iron pipe, but it was in a corrosive environment. So that generated the capital project for that year. And we also kind of work in conjunction as best as we can with any paving programs that the towns may have, because that could save the authority as well with respect to paving rehab costs. So it gets, Mike's memo gets a little more detailed. If you have any more questions on that, or would like to expound a little bit, that's kind of a high-level summary of how we develop our annual running projects.
Any other questions, comments? I was saying to Mike earlier that I really appreciated the logic and the thought process that was done here to go through the system and figure out what is in the system, and then provide us with detailed maps of where the aging of the system and the classifications. So nicely done. Moving on with the agenda, Properties Committee, recommendation on proposed operations building.
Okay, I included a memo here. I don't know if the chair wants to talk about this committee meeting.
Well, we held that on the 3rd of December. The committee was here, and Dave, Bruce, and myself. I think Tom came with Rich. The thought process to put together the new garage, we'll call it, was well thought out. I walked through current garage, which I would suggest anybody here take a walk through, see what they have, and see some of the deficits there, issues that need to be addressed in the new place. But we concurred with the 30% concept design to go forward. But if you look at the concept design that everybody has now, it'll entail the loss of not the loss, but the demo of the water system building, the brick building, the large one. Probably another decision to make is what to do with the little one if we go with the first one. But we concurred with the 30% concept. Recommend going forward to 50% by the designer that you use and pair, and see what we have. And 50% comes out, we'll have to make the decisions to implement the demo and go forward to 90% and go out to bid. Just at the point that it's 18,000 square feet. It's going to be a panel building, is it right to say panel, Mike?
Structural panels, prefabricated metal building.
Prefab type building, but is a benchmark. I looked at the cost, it was around 15 million or something like that, but I built a 18,000 square foot building masonry one for 6 million. So that tells you how much things have gone up over the past 20 years. So it's a significant increase in stuff we're just doing business. So, but the recommendation to the board is let's go forward to 50% and start getting some decent design drawings.
And one other thing, the size of the building is comparable to what Bristol and Barrington has at this point.
Yes,
You know, considering the number of pieces of equipment that we're dealing with. So,
That's good to know.
yes. Paul Collins can tell us about it.
But to take a walk, I would recommend any board member come in and see what you go in and take a look at what they currently have as far as the accommodations for the employees, the equipment, how they're working, so on and so forth, and the needs of the BCWA employees to go forward and do a good job that they always do. So that's my recommendation.
So thank you. So I'm not mistaken, maybe some other board members are not mistaken. The buildings that would be taken down in order to implement this project are which buildings?
It would be the maintenance garage today,
Yeah.
and the larger of the two buildings that we've discussed for demo.
And the the smaller building that's on Child Street.
That is
the
currently not going to be touched,
Right.
but if the property committee looks at it and comes back with a suggestion that as part of the demo contract, to make that a line item or something like that, if we cannot get any further with the whole process, which it does not seem that people are knocking on the door here to give you money to do anything, so. I don't know, did you guys talk to the council that,
Nobody has said it.
so, it would, I believe the committee would go back and say, once this is, if we go to 50%, we should certainly entertain a demo contract, knowing that you could have three pieces, basically, the two brick buildings and the demo of the garage that exists today when it's replaced.
Now, Dan, I don't know if this has any, gotcha. Dan, I don't know if this affects the budget or not, but in your budget, you have $1 million that's set aside for demolition of buildings over here. In this proposal here, in this memo here, in the summary, it shows estimated demolition, and it says owner provided, but they give that description. And they have a number in here of $470,000. Regardless of the amount of money it's going to take these buildings down, are we double counting it if we're putting it in this budget as well as in our operations budget? Maybe yes, maybe no. Something to think about. Yeah, okay.
We'll call it a buffer.
It's a buffer.
I think the million was a little high anyways, and
Right.
just a buffer to take down those other two buildings.
Right.
That didn't include the garage, that was the big building, the small building. But that $1 million been there for a while.
They included it in the overall project cost.
Yeah.
And it does say by owner, so they recognize that we may take on demo on our own,
Okay.
okay? But if you look at the capital budget, we put a $15 million number to be bonded.
Right.
The overall project estimate put together by these engineers and architects with the construction costs plus soft costs, demo,
Right,
and contingencies comes to 20 million.
right.
So yeah, not really a buffer.
Yeah, but we're, but we think that we can still get this project done for
Yeah.
15 million total.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I was just pointing it out from the viewpoint of there may be money in a couple of spots here which might help. And the other thing that this table does, it mentions 3 possible cost savings, or as they call them here, optioids. I think they meant options. And they have 3 deductions. And the interesting thing, they probably could have listed 20 things that could be possible deductions. I'm not sure why they picked on these 3 things. But my thinking here is, if you deduct these things from the building, sure, you get the price down. But if they were originally seen as, in the concept, as a necessary thing to have for the building, then I wouldn't take them out of the project. Because adding them later on is only going to be more costly. And some of these are structural in nature that takes up part of the building. So it would make the building smaller. And then 5 years from now, we say, hey, let's put in that wash bay. We're going to end up having to put an addition on the building. So I don't think at this point, anyway, the deductions should be entertained at all. And I'm just mentioning those. The other thing that occurs to me as we look at this project, and certainly in favor of the project, is that when you're out on Child Street and you look at the old buildings, there's actually a nice landscaping there. Don't look at the buildings, look at the grounds. The buildings are not in great shape, but there's a nice landscaping that's there. And this street, Serpentine Road, is sort of an introduction to farmland and more rural land to the north. And we're going to be placing this building here that's going to be tall, it's going to be close to the road, and I think there's a need for some type of landscaping here to minimize the impact of this factory-looking building on this, what before was sort of a country road. So that's something I think in this next portion of design should be considered, is what the landscaping treatment is. Something minor, but it can make a big difference in the acceptance in the community, I think. Any other comments, questions, thoughts? We need to take an action on this, is that correct?
No.
No? It's just, okay.
We need to just approve to go to the 50% level. I think we'll see the drawing.
Well, we have a recommendation. It didn't say information and discussion, so I would say we vote to, do I have a motion to accept the recommendation of the Properties Committee? Second. Any further discussion on the recommendation? Any questions? All those in favor of the recommendation say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous.
So the next step will be that we'll be asking for a task order from the engineers to bring this to 30%. That will be brought before the board for their approval.
To go to 50%.
To go to 30%.
I thought this was 30%.
No, this is concept plan, preliminary plan.
So we're gonna, I'm sorry, then
No, this only goes to
we're gonna go
30%, this
50%.
only goes to 30%, the next stage.
Sorry, that was my error.
Yeah.
3s and 5s can look alike. Okay, the next item on the agenda is item
When's he smoking?
10. Item 10, item 11. Yeah, and that's the draft operations and maintenance budget.
So the Finance Committee met on November 13th and went over with both Steve and Dan on the operations and maintenance budget. The proposal is for $9,630,000 and $9,630,648, and the Finance Committee voted to approve that budget. So I am recommending, so the Finance Committee is recommending approval here tonight.
Make a motion that we accept the Finance Committee's recommendation.
Second?
Any further discussion of the budget? Any issues, any items that you think need further explanation? Anybody just want to talk? No. We have a motion, it's been seconded, to accept, approve the recommendation. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, go on to the draft capital budget.
On the same night, the finance committee discussed the capital budget. There was one change that was mentioned in item 8. Other than that, the finance committee recommended approving $29,950,000 for the capital budget for fiscal year 2027.
Motion to accept the finance committee's recommendation.
Second. Okay. Any comments, questions, discussion? Everybody understand it? Speak now, or ever, or for the short term, hold your peace. Dan, the assumption you have here on the bond issue assumptions is that you would do a $15 million bond issue at the beginning of 2027.
Yeah, it'll probably be later. Yeah,
You think it'll be later now?
yeah.
Okay.
Based on the meeting that we had at the finance committee, it'll probably be later, probably more towards late summer, early fall. We have a better idea once we start getting 30, 50%,
Correct.
80% completion, then we, from there, we would decide when to go off the bond. It really wouldn't affect the calculations on the sheet,
Right,
because the first year I just include interest only,
right.
so it really wouldn't affect the calculations.
Okay, not hearing any other comments or questions. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It also is unanimous. And for information purposes, we have the draft 10-year financial plan. Does anything need to be presented on that, Steve? Okay. Okay.
And then we continue to maintain the, biggest ticket item on that, obviously, is the pipeline project, and we continue to carry the higher end of that cost estimate, which was $7 million.
Okay, do we have a need for executive session?
Just for the North Farm and the minutes.
Motion to go into executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 42-46-5A2.
Second, all those in favor going to executive session, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, okay, we're going into executive session. Okay, now let's see, the motion to seal the minutes.
Motion to seal the minutes.
Second?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, the next scheduled meeting is the January 22nd, a public hearing as well as the board meeting. The public hearing will be at like 5 o'clock, I guess,
Yeah,
Steve? And the board meeting will be after that, so,
5:30.
yeah, okay.
Feel like Bill should adjourn this.
Second.
Second? Okay, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
See you next time, guys.